Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is kind of unique here on the Texas Gun Vault because this gun is from a company that I have publicly stated many times. I do not think they make quality firearms. I've shared my experiences in the past of shooting other examples that literally fell apart at the range. And it is a company that I said I will never purchase a firearm from. Now this is the Kel-Tec PMR-30. Now, when I review these guns, I always tell you, I try to take all of my biases about either the model or the company and throw them out the door and review the gun just as it is and document my experiences. And I promise to do that the best I can. Now this particular gun is on loan to the channel from my good friend Jack. Now, when it comes to the caliber of this gun, that is what makes this gun very unique. This gun is chambered in .22 Winchester Magnum. Now I know there's probably not a lot of people out there that are clamoring for a pistol in this caliber. It is essentially an elongated .22 long rifle that is a pretty screaming cartridge that has very low recoil. So it's an extremely long cartridge. It is really designed more for bolt action rifles. So I give Kel-Tec a lot of credit for even attempting to make a semi-automatic pistol chambered for .22 Winchester Magnum. Now that brings up something about Kel-Tec in general. Kel-Tec is a very innovative company, and I have to give them a lot of credit for that. Their designs are like no one else. But in my opinion, their quality is severely lacking. Every time you hold a Kel-Tec firearm, it feels like a toy. It feels cheap. You look at the way that they construct the gun, it just doesn't feel quality as compared to other manufacturers. Now, for some people, what they lack in quality, they make up for in innovation. And I can even dog on other gun companies that are the opposite. Companies like Colt. They're not very innovative at all. But their quality is pretty good. Well, depending on who you ask. But in general, their 1911s and ARs work. But they're not a very innovative company. I personally think the perfect company is the one that can balance innovation and quality. And some companies are just really far on the spectrum to one side. In Kel-Tec, it's all about innovation, but the execution of that innovation isn't that good. So, now that I've talked about all of those things and my thoughts on the company, let's talk about the things about the gun as it sits here on the table that I like and don't like. So even though I'm not a big fan of Kel-Tec, there are a few things about this gun that I actually like. First and foremost, this gun comes with 30 round magazines. So having a lot of capacity in this thing is pretty nice, I gotta say, even though it is a weird caliber. I also really like these fiber optic sights. I'm a big fan of fiber optic sights. I find them to be very visible in low light situations. I really find that they work. Let me see if I can get this into focus here. But you have red dots in the back and a green fiber optic in the front. Also, when I have dry fire this, and by the way, you don't really want to dry fire any type of .22 rimfire too much, but Jack said that I could. The trigger on this is absolutely fantastic. So I have to hand it to them as well. It really does feel like a target trigger, which by the way, I really think this gun is designed to be more of a target gun than anything else. I don't really think due to the caliber or its size, it's designed for personal defense. The last thing that I really like about this is the ambi safety. I really like the fact that it is on both sides of the gun. It is easy to actuate, and the detent that holds it in place is pretty darn good. So there are good qualities about this gun. So now let's talk about the things that I don't like. And I've already alluded to one of those, and one of those is the construction. Upon examining this gun, it is obvious that the way that they manufactured it is having two pieces as part of the receiver, and they are bolted together. So you will notice that alongside the frame, there are these bolts. See if I can get that into focus as well. So they're all over the place, even at the bottom of the grip, along the slide. You can see them all there, and they're on both sides. And so this gun is manufactured in 2 pieces and then bolted together. I find that to be very cheap and very shoddy. Even other budget firearms companies can make a 1-piece receiver. The gun also is extremely light and feels very chintzy to me. The polymer that Kel-Tec uses doesn't really seem to be very robust. I guess it works, because I don't really hear about a lot of lawsuits about the guns malfunctioning. Maybe they're out there, but they're not widespread. So while maybe it feels cheap, maybe the quality actually is okay. Then I'm also not a fan of the aesthetics of this gun. I know I've been giving you guys some close-ups of this, and maybe for some people this is going to be a really cool looking gun, but this is part of their innovation. They just have very unique and very different looking guns. I'm not a fan of this design. I don't find it to be very attractive, but it is what it is, and maybe you do like it. And the last thing that I don't like about this gun is the heel release. Now, many times I do like heel releases, especially on European guns. I don't know why Kel-Tec did not put the traditional button up here or design the magazines around it. It has a heel release. Now, it is a very intuitive release, but it's very different than most other pistols. I also don't think when it comes to the ergonomics of this heel release, it's very good. I actually find it slows me down as compared to like my HK P7. So, with all those things said, and that's my initial thoughts from just handling it, let's load up a magazine and let's go to the range. And by the way, due to limited ammo availability, I don't have many rounds for this range report, so this is not going to be super extensive. So while these magazines can hold 30 rounds, I'm only going to load them up for the most part to 10 rounds apiece. So it's just because of how much ammunition I have on hand. So with that said, let's get to the range and let's put the first magazine through this and see what I think. All right, so that's pretty darn good accuracy, and I think a lot of it has to do with the really nice trigger on this. Now, I do have to say that 22 Winchester Magnum is a pretty darn screaming cartridge. This gun barely has any recoil, but has a huge flash and a huge report. I can tell that that round is going down range very, very fast. So it's definitely going to be way more effective ballistically than 22 long rifle, but I don't know how much more reliability you're going to get out of it simply because it is rimfire. Now that makes me wonder about why they chose to chamber a gun in 22 Winchester Magnum. Ballistically, I actually think you would be much better off going with a gun in 5.7. I think that the FN 5.7 or the Ruger 5.7 are better options if you want a round that is chambered in something about this size and about the same recoil. I just don't see the ballistic advantage to this round unless you just have a whole ton of 22 Winchester Magnum on hand. All right, so that's going to bring us to what I always refer to as the accuracy portion. Now remember, I am not a trick shot. I'm not an expert shooter. I just put the target out at about twice the distance and see how my group opens up and to see if I can shoot this pistol accurately. I actually got pretty high hopes for it. So far, it seems accurate. The sights are really good, and I have a long sight radius. So I guess that's another positive thing about this, as I think this is more of a target gun than anything else. So let me set the target at 12 yards. I'm going to put 10 more rounds down range and aim for the head of this silhouette target, and let's see how I do. All right, so actually that was pretty accurate. The group opened up just a little bit. I didn't really have any problems hitting the target. I did have one failure to feed, which I'm surprised, honestly, I'm not having more of. 22 generally as a caliber always is going to have reliability issues, and when you elongate the case like 22 Winchester Magnum, I was actually expecting a lot more failures to feed, failures to eject, all those types of things, but so far only having 1 out of 20 fail, so far it's doing pretty good. It's definitely not reliable enough for me to ever say this would be a defensive gun, but as a range toy, maybe it's okay. Well, now I'm going to give my wife Becky a shot to shoot this. I'm curious what her thoughts. She loves 22 target pistols, but this isn't a 22 target pistol. It's 22 Winchester Magnum. So let's see what her thoughts are. Good. All right, so she was definitely not happy with her group. She had a failure to feed as well. And her main comment was, I don't know what I really think about this because it feels so different. You know, sometimes different doesn't mean bad. It just means that it's new. And so sometimes when we shoot guns, we get used to particular calibers and the way guns function, that when some company comes out with something that is innovative, that is different, our initial reaction is, it's junk. Well, while I may not like this gun or this company, I really have to give them credit for going in a different direction than many other companies. But that can definitely be a turnoff. So if you're thinking about it from a business perspective, however, you want to sell firearms. And if you produce guns that are just too different, well, where's your market going to be? You're always going to have the niche shooters and the niche collectors. But for the general population, they may not like it. And that's kind of where I feel that my wife falls when it comes to her ideas about this gun and her thoughts about this gun. She goes, well, it works, but it's just too different. I don't really like it. And so I think that's just something to take into consideration from the manufacturing side. So on this range report, I am going to forego what I refer to as the defensive use, where I try to change magazines really fast, simply because I don't think this is a defensive handgun. So what I am going to do is take my last 20 rounds, load one magazine to a higher capacity than just 10, see if I have any more reliability issues, and if I can get a pretty decent group, I'm going to bring the target back in to about 7 yards, and just shoot this as a fun range gun, a fun range toy, and let's see how I do. Alright, so we had one more failure to feed, and I'm not 100% sure if it's just the cartridge, if it's the magazine, if it's the design of the gun. All I know is that 22 Winchester Magnum is not designed originally to be shot in a semi-automatic action. And that is something about the gun that I think is its big Achilles heel, is the caliber. I think it's the big pro. A lot of people are going to turn to this gun and go, wow, it is so cool because it shoots this caliber. But I also look at it and go, I would never want it because it shoots this caliber. So I guess kind of depending on how you feel about that, your interest level in this gun may vary than mine. But how do I feel about this gun in general and my final thoughts? Well, I gotta say, as a range toy, as a plinking gun, it works. It might not be the most reliable gun, it might not feel like the most substantial gun, but there is a little cool factor just because of what it is. Is this a gun that I would recommend to anybody for self-defense? Well, absolutely not. Is this a gun that I would recommend to anybody for home defense? Well, absolutely not. If you want something that's going to be ballistically better than this and have the same recoil, as I mentioned, go look at something chambered in 5.7. But if you just have a whole bunch of 22 Winchester Magnum lying around and you like Kel-Tecs, well, this might be the one for you. It's definitely not the one for me, but I had a much more positive experience with it than I was expecting. I'm very happy with the trigger. I'm very happy with the reliability. Nothing fell off the gun like in previous experiences with Kel-Tecs. The gun, it's not too rattly. Seems to be put together okay. I'm not a fan of how the frame is put together. It just seems like they just cut too many corners and it feels like a toy. That's something else that my wife said when she picked this gun up for the first time. It feels like a toy. This thing is exceptionally light. Now, I like light guns, but it also just feels chintzy. And I know that's very qualitative. If this is a gun that you're interested in, go pick it up before you buy it, especially if you're looking at one on some auction site. Go handle one in person before you buy. So, on my star rating, what would I give the Kel-Tec PMR-30? Well, it shot better than I thought it would. It actually read better than I thought it would. I was expecting way more failures. It is kind of a fun gun in concept, so I give it positive points for that. So in general, I'm actually going to give this thing 3 stars out of 5. Reliability issues, it's built cheap, it feels chintzy, it has a few reliability issues, but for the philosophy of use as a range gun, a range toy, it fills that role pretty well. And if this, for some reason, is a caliber that you absolutely love, well, you don't have many more options. So I have to give Kel-Tec the points for being innovative and trying something new and thinking out of the box. The execution might not be perfect, but the innovation is there. So there you go. That is my range report on the PMR-30 by Kel-Tec, 3 out of 5 stars. What do you guys think? Do you guys own one of these? Are you interested in buying one? Are your experiences the same as mine? What about your thoughts? And do you guys think I gave this thing a fair review, considering my open bias against the company? I'd love to know in the comment section below. So, as always, thanks for watching.